It's Nathan Baird at the NFL Combine on Thursday, running through the 11 Buckeyes who are here. They're all working out and talking to the media, that kind of thing. Chase Young and Jeff Okudah are going to go in the top 5. J.K. Dobbins is in the mix, I think, to maybe be the top running back, which means maybe sneak into the first round, probably in the second round. Damon Arnette is getting a decent amount of attention as maybe like a second-round corner. But there's 11 guys here. There's a lot of draft prospects for Ohio State other than those 4. When we were talking about this, you're like, oh, yeah, just rule out. Yeah, they have a lot of good players. But who's like an interesting mid-round guy from what we've seen, what we've heard here, who has piqued your interest?
I think there's a good handful of candidates, but the one that I think is most intriguing right now is Jonah Jackson. I think he's a guy who could position himself to maybe be the number 1 guard on somebody's draft board going into the draft. And if you have a real need at guard, you've got an open spot, you need depth there. If he's your number 1 guy, that potentially pushes him from someone you could look at in the 3rd or 4th to maybe even as high as late in the 2nd round or something like that. He had a really good performance at the Senior Bowl. I think he's somebody who's going to test well. I think he's somebody who's really going to interview well. I've been really impressed with him just the 1 year he came into Ohio State and got the respect of everybody in that team. It was also a good guy to deal with from a media standpoint. Just seems like a guy who is sort of seizing the moment right now. I could see him establishing himself and having a really productive pro career.
Malik Harrison at linebacker was a guy that we talked to on Thursday, and he's a former high school quarterback, was a lower-rated recruit, kind of like Darren Lee was. Darren Lee came to the Combine several years ago, blew people away with a 40 time in the 4.4s, ran like a receiver, and went in the first round. But Darren Lee was 6'1", 232. Malik Harrison is 6'3", 247. That's what he measured in here. And when Harrison was talking about that Thursday, he's saying, like, I'm bigger than most of the guys, like, at my position, but I'm just as fast. So when he runs his 40, he's not going to run a Darren Lee time. But if he runs fast, he thinks he'll do well in his agility drills. I think he could be a really interesting guy. Darren Lee hasn't had a great NFL career. He's a little bit smaller, super fast, seemed like the modern NFL linebacker back then, several years ago. I wrote that. Malik Harrison plays downhill. He'll tackle you in the run game. He was talking about he didn't have as many coverage opportunities, and that's like, well, it's because they played the bullet. They played 3 corners all the time. They didn't ask him to do much. He was in a lot of nickel situations. I think he could cover. I think Malik Harrison might have another good package of skills, can stop the run quick enough to play in space. I think he's my guy that I'm very curious to see what the NFL winds up thinking about him. Nathan Baird, Doug Lesmerises, the Combine never ends, baby. And then the draft is like, I don't know, like 2 months away. Coverage on that always at cleveland.com/OSU.